and welcome to the Flaky Foodie Podcast, the only show where the discussion is delicious and there's chatter to chew on. On today's episode, in season 1, we learned about the Foodies Take Flight series, where we talk with foodies and people who love food from all over the world about their food experiences, or who've been all over the world about their food experiences. And we're going to continue right on that trend. Today with us, we have Caroline Kelly. She's a copywriter and has a background in journalism, as do I, but she continues to write to this day. And welcome so much to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here.
Yes. So tell me a little bit more kind of about yourself. And I know you've had a lot of different travel experiences. How did that begin or how did that start?
Sure. Well, initially, I never wanted to go anywhere. I was completely fine in my little hometown, but my husband got a job basically in Switzerland. So we all decamped from the UK. I was heavily pregnant and I had a toddler. So I was all kind of like already pretty burdened down with family life, but got to Geneva first of all, which I don't know if you know much about. So I heard your Swiss podcast and about the snack, the goûter snacks. So that was a real eye opener, just kind of getting into European food a lot more. I mean, you know, in the UK, we love Italian food, we love French food, but Swiss food was a bit of a different start for us.
What did you find most different? Did you find any dishes that you enjoyed, or was it?
Oh yeah, no, that was the problem. It's just so much stuff. I mean, if you love cheese, Switzerland is your place. Everything is just melted cheese. And I mean, I kind of thought before we left, maybe it's a bit more complicated than that. You know, what this fondue? You know, maybe there's a lot more to it. I mean, maybe there is, but it really is a lot of melted cheese. A lot of different meats as well. A very seasonal kind of place. So you have the kind of hunting season. Mm-hmm. So you'll get a lot of game at certain times of year. And I don't know how you feel about eating horse meat, but that was something I hadn't come across too much before. Not much of a fan of the horse meat, I've got to say, but I love the idea of seasonal foods. That's a great element to Swiss eating.
Okay. And how long did you stay in Switzerland?
We were there for 4 years. Yeah. So 4 years in Geneva.
Okay. And what other countries have you visited?
Yeah, so after that, I was never going to leave Geneva. It was amazing. The outdoor life's incredible if you love skiing and running and, you know, all this kind of thing. But we ended up moving to Singapore in 2016, which was a massive, I mean, if you like expensive countries beginning with S, this is basically our what we're doing. We're heading to another expensive city, a very different culture, hugely different culture. I hadn't been to Southeast Asia before, so this was a real eye-opener for me. So we were there for 2 years.
What city in Singapore?
Well, I mean, it's the kind of island state. So we were down in the kind of central area, a place called Ang Mo Kio. Ang Mo means foreigner. So we were really kind of within a kind of foreigner enclave there. But actually, I was in the French enclave. So we carried on speaking French, carried on, you know, meeting French people, eating French food, but also had this incredible culture of food. I mean, Singapore lives to eat.
What are some of the dishes that were like the first time you tasted it, you were just
yeah. Oh, I mean,
this is true eating.
I mean, Singaporeans, they love eating. And I wouldn't claim to be like, I don't understand the full culture or the full history. And I would hate to kind of put words in anyone's mouth and be kind of like, this is how we do things in Singapore. But if you love food, you are going to be absolutely fine in Singapore. The big cultural kind of element is the hawker center. So these are food courts. They've been the hawkers, the food peddlers, have been in existence since around the 1800s, when it was a major seaport, and you had Chinese influence, Malay influence, Indian influence, British influence, all coming together. And in around the 1960s, the government wanted to regulate the hawker centers. So all the street food stalls were placed under one roof or several roofs. There's probably well over 100 hawker centers in Singapore, and you have different stalls, and you can get an amazing 3-course meal for like $3.
So wonderful street food.
So good.
Is there? So good. What's a dish that now that if you could go back tomorrow and just get a dish What's something that you would get?
You know, you're making me so hungry. I think it would be Hainanese chicken, which is, I mean, it's incredibly simple, and this is the real beauty of the food is that it's, you know, there's a lot of rice dishes, a lot of noodle dishes, and this is just a very simple chicken dish with a broth, in some amazing fresh cooked noodles, and you usually would get a kind of a soup as well along with that, like a kind of chicken broth to start with, and there would be little bits of additions on there. There'd be some parsley and some maybe some sambal sauce or something kind of spicy to go with it. And you have, you know, the option of food is incredible. Lots of the kind of national dish I would say is Singapore chili crab.
Hmm.
I don't know, how are you a seafood fan?
I am not. I'm
You're not a
actually
seafood fan.
you know, I'm pescatarian, so I choose to eat fish occasionally,
Mm,
but
mm.
I'm still not into the uh crabs and mollusks and
You're not sold on the actual kind of shellfish stuff.
mm-mm.
No, no, no. Okay, so Singapore really loves that. My husband is allergic to prawns, so you know,
Mm,
you have to be so careful because a lot of the sauces are just, even if they don't have prawns in, will be made with prawn shells, and so
yes.
you know you're always having to kind of watch what you eat. But I mean, it's such. I mean, laksa is another lovely dish. It's kind of spicy prawns in coconut sauce with noodles, and it's a breakfast dish, and it's just super spicy, and you're just like, it's just heaven.
And I have to cut in to say for all of our American listeners, prawns are shrimp.
Shrimp, sorry,
Yes.
yeah, okay, I should say that it's a shrimp noodle dish, and it is
Yes.
and it's absolutely amazing. And if you like, you know, you don't need to have like oatmeal for breakfast. You can have spicy shrimp for breakfast in Singapore.
So, what about customs? Are there any like unique customs that you had to learn in Singapore or
Oh
anything that
yeah,
came up to where there was like a culture shock to you?
sure. I mean, the thing about, if you go to the hawker centres, which everyone does, you need to know this one tradition, and it's called choping. If you don't know choping, you're going to get told off by an auntie or uncle at the centre, and then you're going to feel terrible for doing it.
Oh, wow.
If you walk into a centre and you see a tissue, you know, a handkerchief, on a chair, or a packet of like tissues on a
Mhm.
table, that table is reserved. If you see it on a
Okay.
chair, that chair is reserved, and you do not move it. You don't remove the tissues, the handkerchiefs from the chair or the table, and that's called choping. And
Mm.
you go in, you can buy these packets of Kleenex or whatever, and you place them wherever you need to go. And you kind of think, oh, you know, it's like someone's just left some trash here, you know, I'll get rid of it, but do not touch it. You'll get shouted at by an auntie or
Mm.
uncle at the store.
So,
Um,
beware the packs of Kleenex.
Wear them because they mean a lot. And, you know, this is a tradition that's been, you know, this is how Westerners get really, like, you know, stand out, by being sort of not respectful of this kind of thing, you know, not knowing that. There's another thing as well. Do you know the durian fruit?
Yes.
The king
This,
of fruits. Yeah.
yes.
There's signs everywhere just saying, basically, do not open these fruits anywhere
Mhm.
in an enclosed space, because although they're a massive delicacy, they really smell like, you know, like a sewer. They're just
Like a
so
sewer.
disgusting. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
wow.
like,
Did you
you can't
actually
eat it.
taste it? Does the smell kind of permeate the flavor?
It does, but actually it's not as bad. Like, the taste is pretty good. And it's, I mean, it's called the king of the fruits, so
Mhm.
it's an incredibly popular dish. But you know, it's an acquired taste. It really is. And the smell is just, you can't acquire that. It's hideous.
So I'm guessing you can't get durian from a street vendor then, since you can't, or can you?
Yeah, you could. Well, there's wet markets. There's a lot of wet markets, so a lot of fresh food and fresh seafood, especially. So anything, if it's in season, you can buy it. You can buy it, really. And durian, I mean, it never seems to go away. It's just always there.
Now, in my episode where I talked with my friend who from East Asia, she mentioned wet markets.
Mm.
What actually is a wet market for those who may not know what it is?
Well, I think it's mainly for, I see it a lot for it's fruit and vegetable and fresh seafood. There's not so much meat on the island. Poultry there is, but there's not much farming space, so you won't find a lot of beef or pork. If you do find it, that's usually imported straight into the supermarkets. So the wet markets are where you find the freshest seafood and the freshest fruit and vegetables.
So, did you cook a lot in Singapore? And how is the grocery store situation? Do people mostly just kind of eat at the hawkers or the street food vendors, or do most people cook? Because I know in certain places, sometimes it's more economical to eat the street food than to
Mm.
actually cook a big meal.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And actually it is, it's more economical to eat. You could eat 3 times a day at a hawker center and you're eating great food as well. Most people of a certain income have a helper who lives in the house and cooks. So the helper goes to the wet market, the helper goes to the supermarket, the helper does pretty much all the cooking and cleaning. I didn't have that for lots of reasons, but it wasn't something my family was gonna ever be a part of. So I cooked all the time, and because it's so hot outside, you step outside and you're into sort of like 80-90% humidity. The idea of carrying like bags around just was too much. So we had home delivery, much like you get everywhere. Um, and there were there were different, like you have probably like pretty much everywhere. There's different levels of supermarkets. You get some pretty cheap and cheerful kind of stuff, ranging right up to the French supermarkets and very specialized kind of supermarkets as well. It's such a melting pot of cultures that every kind of nationality has built a kind of production point within the island that you can access and get your favorite foods from.
So, in terms of kind of eating and day-to-day dishes from Singapore and Switzerland, I'm not saying which one is the best, but which one did you kind of prefer eating on a day-to-day basis?
You know what, I have to say, the hawker food, I would take that any day. Just those noodles, give me those noodles, and the duck noodles. Oh my gosh. Another thing, there's alongside the hawker centers, there's these like coffee shops you can go
Mhm.
to, and they're like hawker centers. They're outside seating, but you have to, but they're it's called kopi. So you can kind of ask for a kopi is like very highly sweetened coffee with a
Mm.
condensed milk, and like you have that and you have your duck noodles and you're set. Honestly, it's amazing.
Did you have a lot of guests, or did you go kind of visit other people, locals in
Mm.
Singapore? And if so, were there any kind of customs there, any kind of interesting experiences that you've had?
Sure. So I have Chinese neighbors. We lived in the French area, but we had a lot of Chinese neighbors. And on Chinese New Year, I mean, I hadn't realized just how big a deal Chinese New Year was. But it's as big as, I don't know, like Thanksgiving or Christmas, or it's a huge custom. And my neighbors turned up on our doorstep with oranges and red envelopes and some kind of like dried beef, really chewy and covered in barbecue sauce. It's just insane. Like, it was so good. Sorry, it was pork, I think, actually. And so I really kind of really look forward to Chinese New Year every year, because it was just the island closes down, everyone's at home with their families, and they call it the reunion. All the families coming together. So you'd see lots of sons and daughters-in-law turning up to the Chinese to our Chinese neighbors, and they were always so great at including us. And every kind of condo would have a Chinese New Year dragon dance as
Mm.
well, and there'd be lots of people just coming out and really enjoying it. And I loved that. I loved the kind of familyness and togetherness of Chinese New Year.
What's something, did you have any other kind of experiences, uh, communal food experiences?
Yeah, my condo was really good at laying on different kind of events. So we would have like Chinese New Year, the Lunar New Year. The French community would have their own events. So we would often kind of sneak over to the French where the French were having a party, because they'd always have like amazing like crepes and,
Mm.
and everything like that. So getting to kind of being within one culture but experiencing lots of different cultures was such a great blessing. It was great.
So you kind of keep mentioning the French area.
Mm.
So there's a huge kind of French presence there in Singapore, and kind of what other communities are there besides, French?
Sure. Yeah. So Singapore is a real amazing hub for travel. So once you're in there, you can get to, pretty much that it's like the airport feeds every part of Southeast Asia. So you can get to Vietnam and Thailand and Malaysia and everywhere like that pretty quickly, which is great. So within Singapore, there are lots of communities. So lots of European communities, Irish. I had a lot of Irish friends, Australian, um, and yeah, Chinese. But also, it's a place where a lot of immigrant workers come, like us, I guess, and a lot of Indian families there as well. So you kind of the food has kind of taken on a lot of different flavors to it, and sometimes it becomes Singaporean rather than Chinese or Indian. It kind of takes on different flavors and traditions and becomes a kind of hybrid version, I guess. And that's thanks to the amount of people living and working there.
Awesome. So, did you kind of go on any kind of adventures around to other countries around Singapore? And what are some dishes that you may have had if you kind of, if you go to Hawaii, they call it island hopping, but if you go country hopping,
Yeah. Well, it feels like that, because you could get on a ferry,
yeah,
and for an hour, and you're on an Indonesian island. So it's island hopping. That's exactly it. So yeah, we went to Indonesia. We stayed and had some amazing Indonesian curries. I can't remember what it's called, but there's some lovely Indonesian flavored curries, just really lovely flavoring and really just so addictive. We also went to Vietnam. That was somewhere I really wanted to go to. I hadn't been to Vietnam. Kind of was weighing up Vietnam or Cambodia, and ended up in Vietnam and had lots of pho noodle. Pho bo, I think, is the beef noodle. And again, I love all the restaurants, but it's the street food that really says so much about the people and about kind of like the local food and the local availability of crops and seasonal produce. So street food, Vietnamese noodle pho, oh man, just so good.
So kind of how did your travel experiences? You mentioned that you cooked at home a lot while you were in Singapore. I'm assuming that you still kind of do that back home.
Yeah, sadly.
I know the feeling. It can get tired when it's every single day.
That's it. That is it. Exactly.
But are there any kind of practices that you learned from when you were in Sweden, when you were in Singapore, when you were kind of island hopping to all these different countries? Is there anything that you kind of tried to recreate at home, or something that you do recreate at home?
I mean, I do try like Singapore noodles. I bought a few kind of recipes and things back with me. My kids are at the time they loved it, but now they're back in the UK. They're a little bit more like perhaps less adventurous than they were. But we did bring back our fondue set and our raclette grill. So we're very like cheese. I mean, raclette is great if you have guests, right? Because you just say you cook your own meat, you melt your own cheese. It's such an easy thing to do, but so communal and such a nice way of sharing food. So I love so we do fondue regularly. I know you're supposed to eat it in winter, but we eat it all year round because it's just so easy. And, I don't have to do too much cooking. It's not much involvement.
So what do you normally serve when you do raclette?
So our raclette grill, you put the cheese underneath, and on top is where we cook the meat. So we have strips of lamb, strips of beef. We also do some vegetables, so we'll have red peppers, and then you kind of match that up with some sauces and with some pickles like gherkins, and you can serve that on little new potatoes or just crusty bread. It's just great, and it's so easy. Once you've cut everything up, you're just ready to go.
Do you ever recreate any dishes from Singapore?
I have tried. I've got like these lists of like try and make some fish head curry and try and make some wonton mee. I like to, wontons. I've been trying to get good at making little wontons, but I mean they're fiddly and I'm really not patient enough to do it any justice, unfortunately.
Okay, so if somebody was going to go to Singapore tomorrow and they say, "Hey, Caroline, what do I have to try? What's something that I have to eat before I leave?"
Okay, that's a really good question. I would say go down to Satay by the Bay, head down that way, and you'll find a massive hawker centre. It's pretty touristy, but there are rows and rows and rows of satay being cooked, and you can choose some pork satay or beef satay or lamb satay, and it is the best satay on the island, and you'll have that with some amazing spicy peanut sauce. There's a bar in the middle. Grab a tiger beer, and you've got the best meal, and it's going to cost you like less than $10 for just an incredible meal. Yeah, go there, head there.
Okay, now the same question. If you're on an island hop, you mentioned one place in Indonesia. Can you name the specific island and what's the dish and a curry that you enjoy that you can get there?
Head to Bintan Island. It's very low key. It's not a metropolis. It's extremely rural. Go to the Bintan Island Resort. hang out in the pool for a couple of days and eat, I think it's called Rangan curry. And it's absolutely delicious. Any Indonesian curry, you will not be disappointed. It's so good. Yeah, with coconut rice. Amazing.
So, how does a curry necessarily differ? Because I know being British, I know Indian food is popular there, and
It's so popular.
there's curry.
Yeah.
So, how does kind of an Indonesian curry kind of differ from what you may get from kind of British or Indian British kind of curry?
Yeah, I mean, I think British curries, I think we've actually created our own Indian dishes that, I think it's probably, again, I think it comes back to seasonal food. You and what's available. Whereas in England, we've got so much stuff that just gets frozen for months on end.
Mhm.
But I mean, I guess it's to do with also a lot of coconut milk that you'll get more in Thai and Indonesian food. You'll get that much more than in UK curries, which is so lovely, and lots of soury flavors as well. So lots of interplay with soy sauce and lime and really sort of sour tasting curry, which if you like is so good. But anything kind of from that island, you're just going to get such great flavors, and you're going to know that it's not the same as the stuff that you get in the UK. It's definitely a different experience.
So, what do you have any new travel plans or
Oh yeah,
anything coming up?
it's been a while, isn't it, since anyone could make plans? It's so
Yes.
good. It's so good. So I've just come back from a trip, another eye-opening culinary experience in Texas. Um,
Ah,
yeah, I went to Austin
yeah.
to for work. And I mean, like, I didn't even know I liked barbecue. And I mean, I thought I knew what barbecue was. And then I went
Oh
to
no, it's
Austin.
it's a completely different
I had
animal,
no
I'm sure,
idea.
in Texas.
I was like, why are all these people queuing? Like, that's in Singapore. In Singapore, the rule is join the longest queue because that's going to be the best. And I
I,
think it's the same in
that's good
Austin, right?
advice.
Yeah, it's because at the end of it is something that everyone's. So the guy, my taxi driver, was saying, look, you're going to queue for 3 hours, but it's going to be worth every bite.
3 hours, wow.
Yeah, there were some places that definitely kind of commanded that kind of attention. But I really loved the whole vibe of like barbecue and live music. I love that intersection of, you could go to a bar, you're going to get amazing food, and you're going to get some really good live music as well. So I really enjoyed that. Coming up, I'm off to Barcelona. Yeah, in
Oh,
August.
awesome.
Yeah, I've been before, but I love it. I love that. Again, if you're a seafood person, you're just going to get some great seafood. It's just good, so good, and tapas, of course, as well, which is
Mm.
amazing.
So, what about your experience stateside? Was this your first time stateside or just your first time in Austin?
First time in Austin. I've been along the East Coast before, so I've had the New York experience and Washington and Boston and around that area, Baltimore, kind of. But yeah, I mean, I understand. I don't know this for a fact, but I understand that Austin is not Texas.
A
Like,
lot of people say that, yeah.
that's what I was told. So, what's the
Culture is a
difference?
little bit different there. Apparently, a lot more different, non-traditional in terms of
Hmm.
what you think when you think Texas. From what I hear, I'm in Florida, so I'm a ways away.
Yeah, yeah. Have you been into that state?
I have not. Texas is kind of on my to-do list,
Mm.
particularly Austin, for the reason that it's kind of supposed to be kind of quirky and wonderful and weird, which is what the type of places that I like. So
That sounds exactly what my experience of Austin was. But then, every time I come over to the US, I'm just so surprised at how, even a neighboring state can have a completely different character. It's like being in Europe, it's crazy.
it's a lot of land. So,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
can we're planning on going to Fort Lauderdale pretty soon, and that's an 8-hour drive. Same
Wow.
state.
Same state, eight
Same
hour
state.
drive.
Yes.
That's crazy. 8 hours would take you to a different country. Like that would take me to Scotland. So, it's quite, yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. But so interesting. That, I mean, I can imagine why, you could just tour the US, couldn't you, just doing your
Mhm.
like show. Where's your favorite place to be? Like favorite eating place in the US?
Oh, I have so many. Hmm. where did I have the best food experience? Right now, it's been just because it's accessibility in terms
Mm,
of I could go back there. I loved Atlanta. We took a trip
mm,
there for our anniversary a couple of years ago, and this is before like there's been some changes since the last time we went. But there are so many just gems there, and it's kind of international as well too. They have a lot of international places, but
mm.
I like to eat vegan for whatever reason if it's available, and they have some amazing vegan restaurants, like more than one, like
Yeah,
probably probably 10 I could probably count for you. And
sounds good.
yeah, and it's like everything from kind of like uh quick bites, low cost
Mm.
uh vegan, and then there's a place we went to, Urban Fix, where it's very fancy, and it's very kind of unassuming fancy because you will walk in and it's just very bright and airy, but you kind of look at people and they're dressed very nice.
You know
And
where you are. Yeah.
yes, and then you get your plates and everything is service is amazing, and it was an amazing place to be. But since then, you know, we have a place called Slutty Vegan that's kind of taken off, and they make these big, huge vegan burgers and
Oh, just
chicken
anything like that.
sandwiches and like everything, milkshakes and all that type of thing. That wasn't as big of a thing when we were there, and it's just I would love to go back to experience that. And there's just so many gems because I really went on that particular trip with the goal to eat,
Yes, that
and
sounds
I
like the best
enjoyed
holiday. That's the best
it.
trip ever. What's Florida? What's good in Florida?
Oh, Florida is so different. Like where I am is country. So you think like rural southern Georgia and northern
Mm.
Florida and lower Alabama were all kind of the same, but
Okay.
different.
Okay,
You
got you.
know, and so a lot of people think Florida, they think the palm trees and Disney
Mm.
World and orange groves and that type of thing, and that's further south, so it's a little different. And then you get more like Latin American influence the further you go down,
Wow,
um, more kind of Caribbean and Latin influence the further you go down.
sounds amazing.
Yeah, so you know, there's Cuban sandwiches and all that type of thing. But as far as what I eat, it's a lot of kind of um southern food
Mm.
at
Oh,
home,
lovely. Yeah,
especially what
yeah.
my mom makes. But my family is vegetarian, so it's like a vegetarian twist on soul food. When I eat out, I just I just like to eat kind of all over the world, but
Mm.
you know, where I am. So one of my
Yeah.
favorite restaurants is actually kind of based on what you probably ate in Singapore. It's like street food type
Yeah.
deal. So it's called Jay's Asian Street Food. So
Oh, it's so good. Yeah,
I
street
eat
food I
there a
think
lot.
is where the soul of the place is, you know, where you get, and I think a lot of particularly Westerners, they go over to places like Singapore and they're a bit scared. You know,
Mhm.
you kind of like, I don't know if I'm going to do the right thing. I don't know if I'm going to, is it going to be too spicy? Am I going to like make a fool of myself? And you just think you've got to go for it. You've got to try this. You've got to go and do this experience because once you've got it, it's going to enhance your time there. It's going to enhance your cultural experience and your culinary experience just like 100%.
Because I really feel like kind of not as knowledgeable as I would like to be in terms of like Asian, especially like Indian food. Like because there's kind of a big Mexican American population where
Mm,
I grew up. I feel like pretty familiar with kind of Mexican and Latin American cuisine, but when I go to like the Indian restaurant, there's a wonderful one here in Tallahassee called Mayuri that I like to go to occasionally. It's a big buffet and you can kind of try everything. You
mm.
know, I found myself walking up like I don't know what this is, you know,
Just gonna try
and
it.
it's not in Spanish, which I can kind of read through education, high school,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that type of thing. So I'm just like, what is alu? You know, what is this? But it's
Mm,
always delicious. And I love going to the Indian market where I live too. So you can get things that are wonderful for vegetarian cooking. Like you can get like chickpea flour, which is becoming more accessible.
mm,
Um, you can get things like all the different dals and dried beans and
mm. Oh yeah,
good
so good.
rice, and so I love it. So
It's so good. I went to
mhm.
India for 2 weeks
Oh really?
many years ago, yeah. And I had to say the vegetarian food that I found in the veggie restaurants was just out of this world. It was so good. Like we were in Kerala, which is way down the south.
Mhm.
And just like again, like the fresh fish was amazing. Like you saw the catch being brought up, and then it was on your plate within like a few minutes. It was so good. Yeah, I love that. That was so good.
Was there a lot of street food in India that you tried as well, or did
Um,
you not get a chance
I
to try?
didn't get to try so much. We weren't near too many places where we could access that. But we did eat in a lot of kind of just local little restaurants and just tried everything, absolutely everything. Because when you've traveled that far, you need to you need to try everything. Yeah, that's good. And actually, alcohol was forbidden, so you would it was like a dry state at the time, but they would find ways around it by giving you a teapot, and on your bill it would say happy tea, and inside the teapot was like loads of beer. So you could find a way. You could find a way around it. Yeah, that's good.
So yeah, so if you ask for happy tea, expect to get some beer
Yeah, you
in
had
there.
cold beer in a teapot. Yeah, that's good.
That's amazing. I love it. Are there are there any other kind of things that you kind of bring to your home cooking besides, you said you try some Singapore food. Now we know that you've been to India, you've been to the US. Is there anything kind of outside the norm for British cooking that you find yourself
I
making?
don't know. I think British cooking has become such a mix. Like we're so close to Europe, so we've all been to kind of like France and Germany and Italy and a little Austria, and because it's been easy once you're in, especially if you're in Central Europe, like if you're in Switzerland or France or anywhere like that, you can travel so easily around. You'd be crazy not to. So in Switzerland you can get into Italy within an hour or two, and from there you can go on, and and catch ferries and boats to various islands. So we eat a lot of Italian food, because we have Italian friends here, and because it's easy and accessible. So I think probably for us, our European influences are huge. In the UK, Italian food has become comfort food to a lot of people. It's nothing better than like a big bowl of pasta, and
Mhm.
we
I
feel like
had some for
that's,
lunch.
yeah, exactly. It's just so great. You just can't go wrong with that kind of thing. So I don't know if it's because British food doesn't really seem to have much of its own identity. It's assumed identities from other
Mhm.
countries. We just eat everything in sight, really everything. And I love that. I love that we embrace all those different flavors and cultures. It's great.
Oh, something I will mention that I enjoy right up the street within walking distance from my house is a place where they serve, it's connected to a gas station, which is
Oh, gas
very
station food.
interesting. So it's very much a hole in the wall.
Okay. Oh,
But,
okay.
which is what we call, restaurant
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
very sketchy, which serves great food.
Yeah.
And I think the owners are Italian by way of like through New York. So, maybe
Mm.
second generation. I don't think first generation, but they make pizza that everyone says here that's basically Brooklyn pizza, but way down here in
Right.
Tallahassee.
Okay.
So I eat theirs a lot as
Yeah.
well,
I would be there every day. I'd be like, keep bringing me the pizza.
The thing is, we have a food face group here, and they really they call it a swarm when they go to these different places, and it really is because the business are just boom out of
Yeah.
nowhere from people mentioning it, and I'm just like, stop spilling the secret,
Yeah. You don't want to be competing in a line, do you? Waiting for hours for something really, really good.
I waited longer than I normally have to for this
Yeah.
pizza, so
Yeah. I mean, even I'm right by the sea. So even in my little seaside town, we have a lot of little pizza places like that, and lots of Indian restaurants, and lots of places to choose from. And it's not a particularly big place, but we do like that kind of Italian and Indian food here is just everywhere. It's so good.
Hmm. Now I'm very thoroughly hungry.
So I've got to make dinner now. I'm thinking, what should I make? Maybe
I, I
lasagna.
I think I did my job here, which is if you're listening and watching, I hope that you're as hungry as we are right now.
So hungry.
Yes. It's currently lunchtime for me, probably dinner time for you,
It's getting
Caroline.
close. Yeah, it's getting
Yes.
close.
But thank you so much for being a part of this show. We played a little game of tag trying to get trying to get her here, but I'm so happy that you finally made it. So thank you very much.
It's been an
And
absolute pleasure.
yes, so if people want to find out more about you, I know you are a copywriter, freelance writer. They want to find more about you and your services. Where would they go?
Oh, head over to my website, which is carolinekellywriter.com. I'm also on Instagram under Caroline Kelly Writer as well, and on Twitter at CazKelly123.
All right. Is there anything that you're working on that you don't mind like sharing about?
Oh, I work on podcasts, so I'm writing scripts for podcasts, if mainly kind of business side of things. So with the Work Week team, who are just incredible, and I write for a feature magazine called Breathe, which is a good old-fashioned print magazine, and it's lovely if you like kind of mindfulness and taking care of yourself. Check that out as well.
Okay, amazing. So again, thank you so much, Caroline. Thank you so much for listening or viewing us on YouTube. Feel free to like, subscribe. If you would like to be on the show, maybe be a part of this series, you've traveled or you have some story to share, you can always leave a comment and let me know, and I'll follow up with you, or send me a message at jess@theflakyfoodie.com. Thank you so much again. Have a wonderful week and make sure you eat something delicious. Treat this episode like gospel for the gospel. Share it, tell a friend, and just put it out there. All righty. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.